is up, guys? Welcome back to Think Shank. We are coming at you after Game 5, Nuggets Clippers at altitude this time, and unfortunately did not get quite the photo finish that we had in Game 4, but a resounding statement win for the Nuggets after the miraculous and probably very deflating win in LA a couple days ago. Let's jump in and talk about some of the game trends. The game kicks off with a bang, and thanks to the NBA on TNT, who doesn't seem able to effectively budget its programming, decides to overlap a third of the first quarter by the time that they air it on national television, tuned in with the Nuggets already more than doubling the Clippers' point totals with 8 minutes left in the first quarter. Very important because the Nuggets go ahead and hold on to at least an 8-point lead for literally the rest of the entire game, thanks to the barrage from none other than playoff Jamal, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, timely makes from the role players on the Nuggets, and that is extremely notable because it exemplifies the amount of focus and execution to maintain that level of edge, particularly late in the game. Case in point, it was an 8-point game at halftime. The Clippers have a chance to clap back and really eat into that edge. Classic fashion, we see a collection of miraculous defensive plays from LA's side, but then Kawhi Leonard gets subbed out about halfway through the third quarter, and Denver finds itself doubling that edge to head into the fourth with a 16-point lead. Clippers couldn't really find themselves capitalizing on some of these great Jokic blocks and slapdowns to turn the ball over, finishing the quarter with 4 turnovers. Somehow Zubac has literally 1 rebound to close the third quarter. 30 seconds into the fourth quarter, Derrick Jones hits a 3 to end about a 4-minute Clippers scoring run. And then we see familiar flashbacks with a 19-6 Clippers run extending from the 9:30 to the 4-minute mark of the fourth quarter, seeing them cut it again into that 8-point-ish realm until they basically ran out of juice from clawing back all game. Kawhi missing a couple very critical free throws, again pretty freaking exhausted. Zubac goes 1 for 2. Nuggets rotation was just going to be hitting these timely shots from basically all across the board, obviously including Jamal Murray icing the game on an incredible drive, turnaround, mid-range fader that is just so backbreaking and classic at this point for the league's best playoff performer relative to regular season stats. Let's jump in first with Denver. The headlines you will see probably orient around Jokic coming down from his miraculous Game 4, where he basically annihilated the Clippers as a team. Finishes the second half scoring just 2 points, putting up 6 rebounds and 4 assists as well, which I guess is just his own one-of-a-kind, quiet type of half. You could sense this coming. He starts the game 0 for 3 field goals in that first quarter. There were so many guys on Denver's side that got it going in the game that he didn't feel a ton of pressure to force shots. Not so much until it got a little bit dicey in that fourth quarter. I think it's important to point out it's not necessarily a function of, well, Jokic doesn't have it going, so therefore Jamal has to go supernova. Felt like this was preordained and prophesized since before tip-off. Getting into Jamal now, he decided to take my advice from earlier in this series where I posited if Jamal Murray takes just 11 field goal attempts in the first half of every single playoff game from here on out, the Nuggets are going to be considerably in better position to win these games. And what do you know? He takes 6 field goal attempts in the first 6 minutes of the game. He is far too important to not get himself going early in the game and establish himself in the defensive psyche. I talk about this all the time. It pays dividends later and later in the game, particularly in very tight rat race finishes. But then in addition, he's just too fucking good to be missing all of these shots alongside of the greatest player on earth. It is pretty much toast. We have seen his peaks in the playoffs, and it is absurd. All of us ultimately get treated to Jamal Murray now wearing the crown of the most 40-plus point playoff games in Nuggets history. Yes, Jokic, incredible. He is going to put up the triple doubles and really the entire offensive engine-esque type of stats, but just raw scoring, finishing, back-breaking, deflating types of buckets, and none of them are ever easy. Goddamn, is playoff Jamal Murray so fucking awesome to watch and just deflating as hell to play against. I'm sure of it. Just so much buzz constantly surrounding him like vultures around his regular season performance and his health and his contract and all these things. And then you just come to find out he is leading the Nuggets franchise in 40-plus point playoff games in franchise history. It's just like, all right, well, word. All right, I'll just eat that crow with a knife and fork now. Sweet. Not just him, though. The rest of the role players stepped up. Not just how the points were distributed, but the overall production from a rebounding, assists, all of the gritty work type of perspective. I'm not super sure that you can imagine a better, more all-around team effort type of win. Russell Westbrook coming in, scoring 16 points in his first 8 minutes on the first shift off the bench, coming in and hitting 2 for 2 threes. And funny enough, I think Stan Van Gundy mentioned on the broadcast, now up to 36% from threes. Obviously, his shots are going to be wide the fuck open in a game of inches, as every single game in this series has been. That is enormous. And contrary to that, Christian Braun now shooting 20% from three, which I think is a little bit overlooked in the series. At one point in this game, he was literally 2 for 15 in the entire series, just to show you the dichotomy or contrast between the two. Also early on, Aaron Gordon doing his thing again with pushing the pace in transition, hunting out these early seals under the basket, got himself to the free throw line twice. And then later on in the game, and then fast forwarding later on in the game, Christian Braun naturally is just hitting at least one lay fuck you three per game now, and it's never assisted, and it's always a stare down, pause, old Mexican standoff type of three, and it's utterly backbreaking. The Nuggets being able to really come out of the gates and pounce on the Clippers with their level of juice and ferocity, it actually let Christian Braun get out and run in transition a little bit, which is really what he made his livelihood on. The Clippers, meanwhile, I come away thinking that the way that the fourth game of the series ended, it honestly might have been more devastating than we thought. Come out pretty sluggish defensively, and to my eye, it looked like they just weren't prepared for the more diversified onslaught from the Nuggets' very, very short rotation. Jamal just blazing out of the starting blocks. Russell Westbrook absolutely leveling them with juice and getting the crowd involved. Clear, Adelman, and whoever told everybody else on the fucking roster, it's showtime. Jokic just carried us essentially to that last win. Y'all need to come out of the gate, score and defend, land a punch first, and that is exactly what it felt like they did. Throughout that first half, too, it honestly felt like Chris Dunn, Nico Batum, and Bogey, believe it or not, those were the three guys to me that felt like they were ready to play and match that level of physicality and energy, at least from the onset. Bogey maybe too much. While I love the tenacity offensively, a lot of the balls it takes to spot up and take some transition threes when his team is not able to score effectively. Just some pretty back-breaking late shooting fouls specifically. I think he had one in the second quarter and another one in the fourth. I believe it was on Jamal, but both of them were like fadeaways that you really don't need to be crowding an already super high level of difficulty shot, but gives them additional free throws. If I'm Ty Lue, looking at the way the plot is unraveling here, I can't be too upset about it because it's at least showing some signs of life on the heartbeat monitor. From a defensive end, somebody is being willing to crowd someone else's fucking space on the Nuggets, and yeah, these are costly plays, but as I've been saying this entire fucking series, the Clippers are the epitome of a team relying on defense sparking offense, and I think that it became the most clear in that third quarter where the Clippers come out of halftime down 8 points. It balloons in the first half of that third quarter, but they were able to turn the tide in what I thought was their best chance to even the game's playing field, cutting the lead back to 8 how they started. Nico Batum gets an unreal block on Nikola Jokic. Actually, he got 2 in this game. Kawhi is able to strip Jamal Murray from behind and then intercept an inbounds pass, I believe, as well, both on Murray. But translating defense into offense in that way and getting themselves these open looks, particularly in fast break scenarios where the Clippers clearly, they're a pretty rhythm-dependent team, a lot of shooters, a lot of drives and kicks, and getting the Nuggets kind of on their heels is really important. And unfortunately, Ty Lue, I believe, made a pretty grave mistake, although trusting Harden, I can understand that based on how the entire year has shaken out. But Kawhi's spark defensively leaves with him when he subs out towards the end of the third quarter, and all of a sudden that defensive spark is stamped out. The lead for Denver balloons back up to 16 by the start of the fourth, and you have Derrick Jones Jr. hitting that 30 seconds into the fourth quarter to end a 4-minute scoring drought for the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard, Nico Batum, Bogdanovic, and always Chris Dunn were really the main Clippers that felt ready to play in this game, and obviously the rest of the team is going to feast on the energy of its leaders, and I don't know if I would have subbed Kawhi Leonard out at that particular time in the third, given the amount of defensive momentum that, again, the Clippers are so dependent on. Which brings us to a great time to pivot to James Harden having his, unfortunately, highly anticipated playoff zero type of performance. I don't want to give the Scooby-Doo meme where they pull the mask off of Harden and it's actually Jalen Green, because that would be really fucking mean. But everything that you would fear as a Harden fan or a Clippers fan really came to fruition. Harden finishing with 11 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. Sounds, decent with 8 assists, but to me, it was the presence, the level of rim pressure, downhill, actually getting guys in compromising positions. Harden really wasn't a threat in this game, and it seemed to eat him on the inside with all of that heightened pressure, especially again in that third quarter where I think they had the best chance to get it into a feasible window for duking it out on the home stretch. Just very tentative, and those 11 points that he scored, those only came on 3 made field goals with 9 total attempts, and for reference, Chris Dunn attempted 7 field goals. So I typically start anytime I'm breaking down a game with the number of field goal attempts. I think that is such an important preliminary fundamental benchmark for who was being aggressive? How did things end up shaping as far as who is getting open, who is being leaned on the most? If you are only attempting 2 more field goals than Chris Dunn in a very, very high level of importance playoff game, clearly you did not want to shoot, because someone of James Harden's caliber is more than capable of creating his own offense and shooting opportunities. Sure, only 3 field goals made. That isn't great. 8 assists is all right, and getting to the line 5 times, okay, but only attempting 9 shots. If you are one of the 2 heads of the snake of a contending playoff team, that's just not gonna cut it. And it really gives me the complete inverse sentiment of Jamal Murray, where apparently Murray got the memo coming into the game, attempting 6 field goal attempts in the first 6 minutes, establishing himself in the game and in the minds of the defense. James Harden did the complete opposite, refusing to force shots, try and force calls, get himself going that way at the free throw line in the first place. It was not good enough. Unfortunately, this is just emboldening that playoff Harden reputation. I have a sense he is going to bounce back, but this is one of those sitting in infamy memories to add to the collection, where Jokic doesn't even have to have a good game, and one of the 2 of the Clippers' primary offensive engine or conductor in James Harden was unable to really attempt to even that playing field with Jamal on fire. The last thing I'll point out that I found really interesting, James Harden switching out and guarding Nikola Jokic down the stretch. It started in the 3rd quarter. Ty Lue just started having perimeter guys switch onto Jokic. I assume, based on reading how Jokic was playing the game with Jamal Murray, I think he had like 27 points after the first minute into the second half, probably thinking, yeah, Jokic isn't really feeling like he needs to press on the scoring front, and so has none other than James Harden guarding Nikola Jokic down the stretch, which exemplified by the fact that Jokic literally only scored 2 points in the second half. I guess kind of worked. There was that stretch in the 4th where they battled back, and it started looking like Jokic was that Ben Affleck meme where he's just smoking a dart outside and is just exhausted, and you're like, God damn, does Jokic not want to bruise and bump himself back to the basket after this hallmark Murray playoff game? But of course, the role players on Denver really, Jamal Murray, who am I kidding, were able to hit dagger after dagger and effectively hold off the Clippers a lot better than they did last game.